Alone, episode 7. Tonight, we covered days 26 to 32, so not quite a week, and got to have a look at all 5 of the remaining contestants. We got our first decent snowfall of the season 2, so from here on out, that the snow is probably going to be more of a factor. I want to start with where we left off at the end of the episode, and that is Theresea. She wasn't even in like the first half, 3/4 of the episode, but she was definitely the star at the end. What a ridiculous way for her to end her week after going out on her raft to set her trot line, having her device accidentally inflate to get wrapped around her paracord. And then while she's unraveling the paracord from the flotation device, her trot line that she's hauling out gets wrapped around her legs, ends up having to take a shoe off out in the middle of the lake to get this trot line off of her foot. And all of this is occurring while she's out in just above freezing temperatures. She ends up being in the water for 35 minutes and comes back in a near hypothermia state. Thankfully, is able to get herself warm, but it did cost her some burns on her leg. Before all that wildness at the end, all we really saw from her is a major gathering session. She picked lots of bearberries, some Solomon seal, and I don't even know what else she had in that haul that she brought home. But she gets back to her camp after that, lays everything out. It looks like a pretty hefty amount, only to say that she doesn't even think that she got more calories than she gathered, or than she expended gathering. And on top of that, while she was out, had a moment of panic after getting lost. So kind of a big week for Theresea to get by, getting lost in the woods and getting trapped out in the freezing cold water of the lake. All right, let's jump over to the other woman who is still remaining, and that is Rose. We have not seen anything of Rose this season. Like before tonight, I couldn't tell you one thing that Rose had done, but now we are finally starting to see more of her. And, with 5 people remaining, I want to see everyone. I want to see what all 5 are doing. Even if one person isn't as interesting as the others, still show us what's going on there. So we got that today. We find out that she found a glass bottle. It looked like pretty fresh. Like the bottom 2 labels didn't even look like they were peeling off the bottle yet, which is kind of says to me that bottle hasn't been out there that long. So she's been using that for her tea. Brews herself some rosehip tea in there. She's got a nice way to warm her hands holding the warm bottle, and a nice container to drink out of. But that's not the only find she has today, as she pulls a bear trap out of the woods. She spotted a little bit of metal, pulls it out, giant bear trap. If they could actually go after the bears, it might be useful, but that bear trap is really just going to be worth whatever you can get out of the actual metal. Rose also had a bear encounter that really left her shaken. Woke up in the morning, there had been some bear tracks down by the shore. Ends up seeing the bear, and like if you were watching on her chest cam, you could actually spot the bear way before Rose spotted it. And like one more little package of trees, and she would have ended up not seeing that bear until it was right on top of her. So it was a good thing that she saw the bear when she did, but still a major scare for Rose. We got to have that moment of her in the woods with her radio out, thinking about hitting that button. But she persevered, carried on, and later in the show, we got to see the first rabbit of the season. I didn't actually believe there were any rabbits, but here we go. Rose has now caught the first rabbit of the season, so she had her scare, but then got a pretty good meal out of this episode, which should help keep her in for a little bit longer. All right, let's jump over to Colter. I really like Colter. The more I see of him, the more I enjoy him. And we got to see a massive gathering haul from Colter. I think he said he processed 30 pounds of mushrooms, and he was just drying them out in his shack. And like 30 pounds of mushrooms. And like you think about that, Clay got 50 pounds of deer meat. Well, there's Colter, 30 pounds of mushrooms. I don't think the two are quite equivalent, but that's gonna push Colter quite a ways in further down the line. You know, he's aiming for that day 45 when he will be allowed to use a gill net, and with his boat, that could really propel him into contention for the season's win. We also got to see Colter working on his shelter. You know, we got the first big dump of snow, and he used that as a sign that he needed to shore up his shelter and make sure that it was storing warmth as best it could. And after that, we got to see him go back out on his boat, where he snagged 2 more fish. The fish trap pulled up absolutely nothing. So far this season, we haven't seen a single fish trap get a single fish. And I really hope Colter does get a fish with his fish trap, because it would be pretty sad to see so many fish traps and absolutely nothing for it. All right, let's jump over to Clay. Clay's still dealing with his deer, and we mainly got to see him around his camp today. I know first off, he was making a decoy hat out of the skin off the buck's skull, where he skinned the skull, then he cleaned up all the meat and fat off of the inside of that skin, and then stuffed it with moss that he is going to try to figure out how to wear on top of his head while he's out hunting, to potentially convince a deer that he's just a buddy. So we'll have to see if it pays off for him, but not entirely sure it will. We also got to see Clay start brain tanning his hide. So that will be a useful resource for him if he gets that hide done up nicely. He did have a bear come through his camp, and you know, he's with all his meat sitting in his little meat locker. He's got to be very careful about keeping that all safe. So Clay, in his words, pulled off a little bit of redneck ingenuity to rig up a air horn alarm, where he essentially secured the air horn to a tree and then rigged up some rope around the meat shack, where if a bear trips or runs into that rope, it's going to pull down on the rope, hit that air horn, and hopefully at least alert Clay that something is going on, and potentially scare off whatever it was that was looking to steal his food. Lastly, we have Biko. He's entertaining as always. You know, we opened up with him doing the Gollum voice after he was catching himself saying, we're doing this. So there he was sitting, talking in the Gollum voice, talking in his own voice. Was pretty entertaining. We also got to see Biko make a drawbridge door for his shelter. Ended up kind of cool. Looked like it was maybe a little flimsy, but for now it is definitely working for him. From there, he starts collecting rocks for a fireplace, and they're totally teasing him potentially having a fall. And sure enough, we see Biko have a fall. cut to commercial break, come back. He's fine. And his fall, he slipped on clay, which now he's like, hey, this is great. I've got clay. I can use this to make my fireplace even better. So Biko having this near miss turns into him actually getting another win for himself. So there we have it. He's got a fireplace, a little bit better shelter, and now he just really needs to figure out how he's going to get himself some food, because that would be the one area I would say he is falling behind. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap things up for this week. We got our top 5. Who are you cheering for? Who do you want to see go deep into this competition? Let me know in the comments. And until next week, as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we'll see you later.